Hello, everyone. Joining. I'm having some internet issues this morning, some reception issues, so please forgive me. My name is Kayl May. I am the customer service and leadership coach. I'm a motivational speaker. I am a mentor. I am a radio talk show host and author. Thank you so much for joining me on today. Hi, Chevy Gunn. Thank you so much for joining me. I hadn't seen you in a while. I love seeing you ride up on your motorcycle to in Tennessee. But thank you so much for joining, everyone. Today we are going to talk about delegation. Hi, Cato. Thank you so much for joining. Today we're going to talk about delegation, and not only delegating, but delegating with the purpose. Because it's one thing to delegate, and someone think that you're just trying to not do your job. So it's good to delegate with the purpose. But it is so important to do that, and the reason it's so important to do that, it's a lot of reasons why you need to do that, but two of the main reasons is, you cannot do it all. Don't be one of those managers, leaders, business owners who think that they can do everything themselves, because you cannot do it all. You need to have someone to help you. And that's why you have those supervisors. That's why you have those team leads. That's why you have those managers. And that's why you need to make sure you're doing it with a purpose, right? You need to make sure, a lot of us think that we need to have our hands in everything, and I'm guilty of that. You need to have your hands in everything, or everything is going to go in disarray. You're not going to be successful. You're not going to get things done. No one can do it better than you. You have to learn that other people can do the same thing you can do, but maybe in just a different way they can do it. So we have to think about that when we're delegating. So delegate with a purpose. Be specific. I know everyone who has ever worked in corporate, and everyone, hi, thank you so much for joining on Periscope. Everyone who has worked in corporate, and even now I hear entrepreneurs using this as well. The SMART acronym. Be specific, measurable, agreed, realistic, and time bound. We need to make sure that we're utilizing that when we're delegating responsibilities off to people. That is so important. Excuse me. So we're going to talk about delegation, and the reasons why you need to use delegation. And I have my little notes over here, so if you see me looking over, I want to make sure I got everything down correctly. The points that I really wanted to get off, because it's been a busy month, and sometimes you forget things when you're doing your videos. So I want to just write down some little notes of what I want to make sure I do. So number one is use delegation to empower your team and teach them leadership skills for advancement. That is a great way to delegate with a purpose. It's to talk to your people and let them know why you're delegating to them. Delegate. Choose someone that you see that wants to be promoted. You've had that one-on-one with them and they've told you they want to be promoted. So you need to give them some, hi Kim, you need to give them some leadership skills. Delegation is a great way to do that. Use your delegation techniques for that. And on Periscope, I see some people, and once I get off and I look at my viewers list, I see a lot of people who are coming on who I cannot see. Hi, thank you so much for joining. But thank you so much for joining me as well. Even if I can't see you, I do appreciate you. So I wanted to say that. You organize trainings, awesome. Corporate trainings, that is awesome. So we definitely need to communicate. Put your information in. I can go back and look at it. You're not in the USA. Well, you know what? We can go international. You never know. But delegation. Use delegation to empower your team and teach them leadership skills that they need for advancement. That's a great way to do it. On all the companies that I've worked for, and I've been in management and leadership, I've always used something that was called manager on duty, right? Managers in training. So you choose someone, you select someone who you see has some type of leadership skills, or they've had that, they don't have the skills, but they've had that conversation with you where they want to come and they want to be a leader, they want to be a manager, and you want to start giving them those responsibilities so that they can see what it's all about, right? And they can see that you trust them. They see that you value them. It just adds so much to an employee. Instead of you coming just asking them to do something, you're saying, you know what? I remember the conversation that we had, and you told me you wanted to be a leader. You told me you wanted to be advanced. You want to go to the next level. I'm going to delegate some responsibilities to you to allow you to start harnessing those skills that you now have, so I can teach you some things that you need to know. Who's not going to pick up some extra duties if they know that you're doing it for their success? Who's not going to want to do those extra duties? So that's a good way to do it with a purpose. I always be honest. This is the only way you can learn. So make sure when you're giving your feedback to them, even if you've talked to them and they've told you that they want to be a leader, they want to, advance in the company, and they want to do this outside of the company once they leave here, talk to them and tell them what you see in them. Of course, you start off with something very positive. Hi, Tamika. Thank you so much for joining on Facebook Live. Of course, you want to give them some positive in the beginning, right? But you always want to be honest with your people and let them know what you see in them so that they'll know what to work on. There's no reason that you need to, use words and kind of beat around the bush. People don't understand beating around the bush. You don't always have to be as direct. I'm a very direct person. That's just how I talk. That's just how I lead. I don't want to give you some fluff and then you not be successful. I'm going to be honest with you and upfront. But everyone doesn't have to be like that, because everyone is not me, and I understand that. You have your own techniques, the way that you can do things if you're a leader. But in whatever you do, don't give a lot of fluff. Be very honest with that person. Let them know what they need to work on. Let them know what you see. Yes, I see that you want to be in management, but I'm not saying that you're showing me that in your everyday. I'm not seeing that you are, you're not doing your duties. Every time I look around, you're in the back. You're not on the floor. When I need someone to help out, I don't see you volunteering for that. When I ask someone to work overtime, I don't see you volunteering for that. When I ask someone to do extra duties, I don't see you volunteering for that. Be very honest with them and then give them a solution. I'm about being honest with people, but I'm always about trying to give a solution and how you can help yourself. So that's extremely important. I always try to be as honest as possible and not give a lot of fluff when you're giving your delegations. You want your staff to be successful, so delegate with a purpose. That's what we're talking about today. Delegate with a purpose. Make sure you let them know why you're giving them those extra assignments. Define the task. Be very, very specific. It's one thing that you think, and I think that I lead by example a lot of the times, but then you have to remember that not everyone is paying you attention like you think they are. They may not know what to do. So you need to not think that just because they see you do this every day, well, they come here, they see me do it every day, so why do I need to be specific about it? You really do need to be specific, because they need to know exactly your expectations. They need to know exactly what to do. Don't leave open room for them to make mistakes and fail, because then they're not trusting you. You have lost that trust in them, because they say, you know what? You only gave me this because you thought I couldn't do it, and guess what? I didn't do it. So that messes up your trust, their trust with you, and then it just does not make you look good with the rest of your team. So make sure that you're not doing that. But make sure you define the task. That's the first thing. Tell them exactly what you want them to do. Don't think that they understand it, because a lot of times they do not. Let me tell you, I gave a task one time to one of my assistant managers, and I'll never forget this. This was a learning experience for me. Hi, Rita. Thank you so much for joining on Facebook Live. This was a learning experience for me. I gave him a task of going to make sure everyone had finished their training, because I was real big on finish my training in advance. That was just the basic things that you just want to get out the way, you don't have to worry about. He came, we had gotten an email from corporate, from my upper management, saying, make sure all your people have finished training. So I'm saying, no problem. I know my people have finished training, but let me go and have someone to check. So I told him to go and check and make sure the people had finished their training. Well, we had a system in place where you didn't even have to go around and ask everybody. You could go and look inside the system and see have they actually finished, because a lot of times they finished the training, but it was a survey at the end. And if they didn't do that survey, it wouldn't show that they completed their training. But he decided, because I didn't tell him that step, he went and asked everyone had they completed their training. Everyone said yes. The email came back later on. I sent the email up and I said, such and such place has completed all of their training, 100%. Then I get an email back and saying, I thought you said your people has finished training, and it's like 8 of them hadn't finished their training. I was so irritated. Not so much with the assistant manager. I was irritated with myself because I didn't give specific directions on what I needed him to do in order to successfully complete that task. So be very, very specific when you're giving a task to someone. Select the individual. You know what task you can give. You're giving something that really is going to be detrimental and they really need to complete it. You need to make sure you select someone that you really feel that can really complete that task, right? That if they don't know what they're doing, they can come and ask you. You don't want to select that person that you know is just starting out and, you know, they need something a little task that's a little bit lesser so they can build up their things. I would love that, Kim. So, you know, so that they can build themselves up. So it's so important that you select someone with the skills that they already have and give them delegate something a task to them that they can fulfill from there. Don't give them something that you know they're not qualified to do yet and you need to do some additional training before you begin to do that type of delegation. Because again, you want them to trust you and you want them to know that you value them and you have their best interests at heart. And when you do things like that, they don't see that and you lose the whole trust factor with them and you won't be able to, you know, get them to do anything for you. You have to think about that as a leader because you need them just as much as they need you. And a lot of managers don't understand that. Assess the ability to complete the task, and that's what we just talked about. Explain why you're delegating the task. Some managers don't like to do the explanations. They don't like to explain why they're doing something, right? I'm the mother who say, do as I tell you to do. You know, don't question me. You have to do it because I tell you to do it. Well, I have my youngest son, my oldest son was fine with that because he didn't want a lot of conversation anyhow. My youngest son is not fine with that. He's in that millennial age and he wants you to be able to, you know, ask all kind of questions, all of this. So I had to learn that in order to be a good mother to him. We have to learn that when it comes to our employees as well. We just can't tell them to do something. We have to explain the reasons why, because the first thing they're thinking is you're putting your duties off on them. So you have to explain to them from the get-go why you're doing this. Tell them that you are trying to prepare them. You're giving them extra leadership skills. You're giving them extra management skills. And, you know, and talk about the discussion because you should have already had those discussions with them. What are their next steps in life, whether it's with that company or somewhere outside the company. And remember, when you're giving those delegations to them, delegating with the purpose is telling them why. Well, I remember the conversation that we had and you told me that you want to be promoted to the next level. And that's why I'm doing this, to give you those additional skills that I see you need to be successful to get the next position, but also to be successful in that next position. That's important. It's not about getting the job. It's being successful once you get the job. Reward and incentive to do the task. Exactly, Kim. That's exactly true. We have to let them know there's something in it for them because it's all about what's in it for me. I don't want to do anything if it's nothing in it for me. So we have to explain that. So we have to get away from thinking that we can, you know, good leaders don't just tell you what to do. They show you what to do and they give you the reasons why you're doing it. They don't say that's management style. Just go and do this. This is what I want you to do and this is what you're going to do. No, in order to be a good leader, you have to tell them why and show them. State the desired results. What do you want to come out of that delegation? I always make sure they know that. You know, tell them, I want to, I'll use the training guy as an example. I want to make sure, unfortunately, especially here, it's all about the dollars, very specific reward. Yeah, it is about the money, but a lot of times in order to get that money, Kim, she's asking me, we're talking on Periscope. In order to get that money, you have to get that next position. So you have to begin to give them those skills and tell them about the skills. It may not be about the money right then, but it's about the skills that you're getting. I remember working off the clock a lot of the times. It was not additional money a lot of the times because a lot of times we couldn't get overtime. But I stayed anyhow because I wanted to get those additional skills that I needed so that once I started to interviewing for the next step where the money was, my skills would be where they needed to be in order to do that. So sometimes it's not all about the dollars in the beginning. It's about the skills that you need. Sometimes you have to do some things that you don't want to do that you're not getting paid for in order to get those skills that you need and in order to be seen as a leader. You know what? Because 99% of the people are not going to stay overtime and not get paid for it. So you're going to stand out from the crowd. So sometimes that's what it's all about. in my book anyhow. But explain to them what results you really, really want to get out of the task that you're giving them. What do you want them to do? When I gave that task of him finding out about the training people, I wanted him to go in and find out that if someone had not completed their training, to pull them off the floor, send them in the back to complete that training, because that was important. That was something basic that we should have done anyhow. So that's what the ball was dropped. But when I gave him that task, I didn't tell him exactly what to do. So we have to make sure we give them the end results of what we're looking for after they have completed that task. That's extremely important. State the deadline. How long do they have in order to do the task? Don't have them thinking they have, 2 weeks to do something that you want to have done in 1 week. Be very specific on the time frame that you want them to complete the task. All this is in that first conversation. Support and communicate. Now, when you give them a task, you want them to know that you trust them. You want to give them that ability to go out and do whatever you've asked them to do, right? But think about it. In that time frame, they need some support. They need to know, even though you've delegated that to them, that you are still there for them. So you need to make sure that you're offering your support while you're there. You're communicating with them to let them know that if they need anything, that you are there. If they have any questions, you're there for them. Don't just have them thinking that I gave you this task and I don't want you to come back and ask me anything else, and this is for you to do, and if you can't do it, I can give it to someone else. No, be there to communicate with them and be there and let them know that you're there for their support when you've given them that. So that's extremely important. Give feedback. And as I said in the beginning, always give feedback. Don't give the fluff. Be very honest with them. Now tell them the things that you've seen that they've done that's really well. So give them the positive things that they've done. But a person cannot grow by always giving them positivity, right? Giving them the positive things, letting them know the good things that they've done. The only way you can grow is when you know that you have not done something correctly, and then give them a resolution to it. How could they have done it better? Don't just tell them they didn't do something well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and you didn't do this, so the task wasn't done perfectly. No, you need to tell them a way they could have done it a lot better. We have to think about that. We can't just give them a positive all the time. That's one thing I really want to get across, because you have a lot of people who always give that positive stuff and they never ever give you that good feedback that you really need in order to grow. I remember one of my employees came to me. She thought I was very hard on her. Even one of my team members, I don't like to say employee, one of my team members, she thought I was very hard on her because I heard some things when we was in meetings in corporate that in order for her to be promoted, she needed to change some things. So instead of me telling her that, I just began to try to train her and to do the things the way that they were looking for her to do, to see the change in her that they needed to see in order for her to be successful. Well, when she asked my boss how she was doing, my boss told her she was doing everything good and you ain't got nothing to worry about, be looking for you for management. And I'm like, that is so untrue. So she's thinking, why are you so hard on me? And your managers have told me that, I'm doing good. And I'm saying to myself, no, that's not true. Well, I don't want to come into her and tell her that what my manager truly said, because one day she'll have to work for that person. And I don't want any kind of ill feelings for, that person if she would have to go and work for her. But because I was being honest with her, in the end, she realized that the reason I was being honest, and we had this conversation after I left the company, but she understood that the reason I was being honest with her was because I truly wanted her to be successful. You cannot tell someone and she was a very good employee. I mean, she was a very good person. I mean, her sales was always top and of course, you didn't want to lose her. We didn't want to lose her motivation and things like that. But you have to be honest with the person. You cannot grow, or that person cannot grow because you're telling them that they're doing everything good. There's always something that all of us can work on. And we need someone to be honest with us. I'm my worst critic. I know when I'm not doing as good. I can look at my numbers. I can look at my surveys that's coming in. But I still need someone to say, hey, this is what you need to be working on if you want to take it to the next level. So that's what you need to do when you're delegating, and when you're giving that feedback after the delegation has been completed. You need to give that honest feedback. Now, honest feedback does not mean you can't tell them some good things that they've done, because hopefully there's something good within that, or you have stopped them from doing the task. There's something you can tell them that they have done well. So remember that. But always give that good feedback that's saying, you did this and that very well. These are the things that we need to work on, and this is how you could have handled that better. We have to make sure we give solutions when we give that feedback as well. That's important. Let them know that small mistakes are a part of the job, and share when you failed or made mistakes. A lot of times when they look at management, they look at upper management, they look at almost like you're perfect because you have this position. And because we're always talking about how successful we are, right? Because we want them to know that we've been successful, and these are the things you need to do in order to be successful. But what we fail to realize is they need to know about our mistakes and our failures as well. Because they're going to make mistakes as they climb the ladder. They're going to fail as they climb the ladder. And you don't want them to feel like that, they're not going to be good at whatever it is that they're trying to do, because now they failed something. They failed, they didn't do something properly. They made some mistakes. No, you need to share with them your failures and your mistakes as well, so that they'll be able to understand when they make mistakes. Yes, you need to learn from those mistakes, but mistakes are part of the growing pains. Just like we make mistakes when we're children, we make mistakes when we're teenagers. That does not mean, hi healthy youth, that does not mean that we're not going to be the best parents or the best adults that we can be, because we have now learned from those mistakes that we've made. Being an employee is the same thing. You have to make mistakes, and you have to fail at some things in order to get good at some things. I talk about all the time, when I first started working for a wireless company, I had no idea about, cell phones and things like that. I had to learn those things, and in the process, I had to make some mistakes. I had to fail on some things in order for me to learn to get to the next level where I needed to do. No one told me that they had made mistakes, but I just know as humans, we are not all perfect. But sometimes those employees need to hear, your team members need to hear that you've made mistakes, that you're not perfect, and you're not looking for them to be perfect, because there are no perfect humans. Some of us are extremely good at our jobs, and sometimes we forget that other people may not be as good as we are, just like we are, but they're just as good as in doing the job. They just may do it in a different way. So make sure that you're doing that as well. I always tell them how proud you are for accepting the delegation. And that's part of that positivity, right? Even if somebody has not done a good job, but they have said, you know what, I may not be the best for this, but I'm going to try. That is the first step. They have the willingness to take on this task that they know that they've never done before. They may not be the best at it. They may make mistakes. They may fail at some things. But you know what? I'm willing to take this task on. So tell them how proud you are of them. That's going to go a long way in the trust factor. That's going to go a long way with them knowing that you value them as a person, as a human, and as an employee. That's extremely important. So don't forget that. And a lot of managers don't say they will not do as you would do. A lot of managers say, go and do what I tell you to do. Go and do it the way I tell you to do. No, you tell them what the task is. You be specific about the things that we talked about, but you allow some leeway for them to incorporate the way that they need to do it. It's about the end result. It's not about doing everything exactly like you want to do it, or like you would have done it. But in the end result, because, it's one thing to be creative, right? But if you get someone and you're saying, you know what, I see you have these leadership skills and you're telling me all these things that you want to do, I want to give you the opportunity to do that, because I see that you can do it. So if you see that they have that possibility in them and they're creative in what they do, don't take that and then take it away by saying, I want you to do this, but I want you to do it exactly like this, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, because they may skip some of those steps that we do, because guess what? They may be more creative than we are, especially these young people. They can find ways to do things that may take us hours to do. Delegation is empowering themselves to be responsible and accountable to the task. Exactly, Kim. But, you have to make sure that you're not saying, because a lot of managers are saying, I want you to do this, but I want you to do X, Y, Z. Even when I told that assistant manager that I wanted him to go and check to make sure everyone was, completed their training and the survey. And even though I didn't say, I should have said, go and do it on the computer versus such and such. He may have had a totally different way to ensure, but he skipped a whole lot of steps. I skipped the steps because I didn't tell him exactly what training tool I wanted him to use. But there may have been another way that he could have gotten on there. Give me 1 second. Could have been another way that he could have gone to do it. As long as he got the end results, and when I got that next email from corporate, it said that everyone was complete, then that's fine. It didn't matter if he didn't do it my way. Customer service frontliners should be empowered to make decisions. That is exactly correct, Kim. I'm a advocate of that. Don't come to me with every little thing. If you're on the front line, I have to empower you to make those decisions. You should know we should have worked together good enough to know, instead of running all the time to the manager. That's what I'm saying. We should have worked together long enough that you know exactly what I am going to allow to do and what I'm not going to allow to do. So every time something happens, don't be the first thing that you run to the manager. Or let me go ask the manager, or I can ask the manager. She might can do something better than I can do. You should already know if I'm going to give a discount or something like that. So you can tell the customer up front. So you can feel like you're empowered. And that's what that really builds that value up when they feel empowered. So you're definitely correct, Kim. But don't use that wait to be told. Do exactly what I do. Follow these instructions precisely, because this is instructions. That's not delegation freedom. So that's what we're talking about. You want to give them the freedom to do it the way they want to do it. But that's why you're being specific. That's why you're using the SMART acronym to make sure when you're discussing that delegation with them, when you have selected the person for it, then you're making sure that you have given them all the information necessary. Now they have to find a way to get it done. 9 times out of 10, they've paid some attention to some of the things that you've been doing, the way that you do things, especially if they're really serious about being promoted. They're looking at you and they're paying attention, right? They may not see every little thing you do, but one thing, when they are paying you some attention, because I've not always been a manager, right? So I've looked at managers and say, I don't understand why they're doing it that way. There's an easier way to do it. If they did it the XYZ way, then they wouldn't have to worry about, that's 3 steps. They wouldn't have to worry about A, B, C, D, E, F. So when they're delegating something to me, I want to do it my way, but I still want to get to that result. So make sure you're being specific with them, using the SMART acronym. Be very specific. Give them measurable, obtainable goals so that you can make sure that they can accomplish them, because you want to keep that trust value factor going on. Make sure that y'all agree that the person understands. And something I like to do when I give a task or when I delegate something is to have them to paraphrase it to me. They don't have to say exactly what I've said, but I want to make sure they understand it and they agree to take that task on. I don't want to just say, I want you to do this. I want you to agree, and I want you to want to do it. That is so important for them to want to do it, instead of you having to make them do it. Because if you're having to make them do it, that's not leadership ability. I want them to agree in order to take the task that I'm offering them. That's important. Be very realistic with them. Don't give a lot of fluff. Be very realistic of what you want to happen, and give them a time frame on when you want it completed. Once you've done all of that and they have agreed to still take this task on, allow them the ability to do it the way they need to do it to get it done. Now, if they do it the way they want to do it, instead of the way that they would normally see you do it, or the way you have explained to them to do it, and they do not get to, the results that were discussed, then that's when you can talk about that, doing your recap after the delegation, after the task has been completed. That's what we have to think about. Now, remember something really, really big that I learned from this, that one mistake I made with my assistant. is we always have to trust our employees. We have to, when we're a leader, when you're a manager, you have to make sure your employees know that you trust them. But you also have to make sure, because no matter what happens, no matter how much you delegated your responsibilities off, it's on your shoulders. It's always on your shoulders. So whatever happens, whether it's a mistake or not, so that's why you have to choose the right person. They still may make some mistakes, but it's not detrimental to the business. Because remember, any company is in business to make money, so you don't want them to lose a lot of money, because it's going to come back on you. And you may be trying to build someone up to take your position, and if you keep letting them fail too much on the wrong things, that's why you have to select the right task, right? And the right person for that task. You have to make sure that you are inspecting what you expect. And that's why the communication and the support is so important, because you have to go back, even though you trust them, you have to go and inspect what you expect. Make sure, don't just wait, and you've given them 2 weeks to finish a task, and you don't talk to them again from the time that y'all talked about the task to the end, or day before the task is supposed to be due. That's 2 weeks that they've had a chance to make all of those failures and those mistakes that they shouldn't have made if you was there supporting them. Inspect what you expect. So you should be going to them, if you're giving them 2 weeks, at least 2 times during each week before that day before. Because you want to be there in support with them. You want to be communicating with them. And you want to let them know it is so important to ask a question. Because remember, people are so afraid to ask questions. And for the life of me, I can't understand that. Inspect what you expect. Hello. Thank you for joining. We appreciate you on Periscope. But you have to inspect what you expect, and you have to make sure that you're communicating that with your people. Yes, I value you, but I just want to make sure that you're here for me. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free. There are no stupid questions. There are no crazy questions that you cannot ask me. I learned in kindergarten that the only stupid question is the question that you do not know the answer to, and you are too afraid to ask that question. I would never ever forget that. Check that they are doing what you're expecting. Exactly, Kim. We have to do that, but verbally tell people that. My youngest son, I use him as an example all the time, because when he was in school, I would tell the teachers exactly to avoid surprises and misunderstandings. I would tell the teachers that he is not that person that's going to ask a lot of questions, because he don't want you to think that he's dumb or he's crazy or whatever. So you have to kind of reach out to him. I knew my son, but I realized that a lot of people are like that. Even your team members, they're like that. They don't want to ask you those questions. So you open up. It's left on you. You're the leader. You have to show them. So you open up and you tell them, you know what? There are no stupid questions. I do have Skype. There are no stupid questions that you can ask anyone, because you don't know the answer to it. I don't care how stupid I look in front of someone. It can be President Obama. I don't care. If I don't know the answer to it, I need to be asking you these questions, because I need to know the answer. That's the only way I'm going to learn, right? Yes, I can go and Google and do all these things, but why do I have to put my pride up there and have to go through all that without asking? Most of us will, but if we don't have, sometimes you just don't have time for that. And if you're there showing your people that you're there to support them, and you're doing that communication with them, and you're having that open door policy, and you're opening your mouth and you're saying, ask me questions. I want you to ask me questions, because that's how you learn. My little 4-year-old cousin that I kept for a month and a half, almost 2 months, he talked from the time he woke up in the morning to the time he went to sleep at night. Sometimes he even talked in his sleep. But what I had to realize is that's how he learns. He asks a lot of questions, and not only do he ask a lot of questions, he repeats what he's saying to you. But sometimes it's not so that we can hear it good. It's so that he's talking to himself. He's repeating to himself. When he's putting on his shirt, he's turning around. He was like, tags in the back. And I'm like, we went through this every single day. So you know the tag is in the back. But I had to realize he's not talking to me. He's reminding himself that the tag is in the back. He just say it out loud. So I had to allow him to do that. We have to allow our people to learn the way they learn. Hi, Queen's Ministry 1. Thank you so much for joining on Periscope. We have to allow our people to learn the way they learn. We cannot think that everyone learns the same. I learn because I'm a hands-on person. I learn from listening to you and watching you. My youngest son is the same way. My oldest son, he can do the reading and all of that, and he can get it. He don't have to really see you do it. And I'm looking at my twin grandsons, and I'm saying they each, or one is just like my oldest son, and one is just like my youngest son. They all learn differently, and we have to understand that. We have to understand our employees are the same way. Just like we have to have that patience with our own children through the learning process. And yes, we get irritated with them. And yes, we're going to get irritated with our employees. But we have to allow them to go through those growing pains and learn the way they learn. We can't expect people to be us. So don't say, do as I do. Here are the tasks. Here's all this. We use the SMART acronym. Here's the way, the things that we need to talk about. And you can do things the way you need to do them. But I need to make sure that at the end, you have gotten those results. Be very, very stern on that. There is no differentiation on what you think the results should be. Here's what I need those results to be. But within that time frame that you've given them, be there to support them and communicate with them. Because when you're recapping at the end, when y'all are having that conversation at the end, they're going to say, you know what? Everything you're saying is correct because you was there. You saw. You saw what I was doing. You communicated with me and you was there to support me. Learn and allow them to learn from their mistakes. Share your failures. Share your mistakes that you've made with your employees. That's so important. So let me just recap very quickly because we got to, I have a 12 o'clock call to make. So let's be very specific on this. When you're delegating, remember to delegate with the purpose. Use the SMART acronym. Be very specific. Give them measurable goals. Make sure they agree upon it. Make sure they're realistic. Don't give them something crazy that you know they cannot do. And make sure you're giving them a time frame. It says time bound, but make sure you're giving them a time frame when you want to have it done. So we talked about use delegation to empower your team to teach them leadership skills for advancement. Always be honest. This is the only way that they can learn. Please don't give a lot of fluff. I'm sorry, I didn't see that last comment on Periscope. If you'll put it back up for me. But always be very honest with them. Don't give them a lot of fluff. They cannot learn from that fluff. You have to give them some positive, but we don't learn from what we can really already do. We need to know. We need to, you're talking about their strength when you're giving them that fluff. But we can't learn from that. The strength is something that we already know how to do. You just need to harness that. But they need to know about their weaknesses. And sometimes as humans, we can't see our weakness because we think we're perfect. I think I'm good at everything that I do. But I've had to have people along the way to say, I need to polish this or I need to polish that. And one thing is how I communicate with people because I am very direct. So I had to polish that a little bit. I'm still direct, but I can do it now with compassion more so just than being kind of, sharp-edged with it. So that's important for you to know that. If you want your staff to be successful, delegate with the purpose. We said that. Make sure you define the task. Be very specific. Select the individual. That is extremely important. I'm about to lose Periscope. My battery's going dead. But select the individual according to what they can do, what you see that they can do, and build upon that when you do the delegation. Don't give them something that you think that they cannot do in order just to see. You should be able to look at a person and see if you're a good leader, if you're a good manager, to kind of assess and see what things they can and cannot do or be good at getting delegations for. Assess the ability to complete the task. Explain why you're delegating the task. That is so important so people will not think that you're just trying to push your job over on them. I cannot stress that enough. So make sure we're doing that. State the desired results. We talked about that using SMART. Make sure you tell them the results that you want. The results that you are expecting. And there's no wiggle room around that. Tell them exactly. State the deadline. Make sure they know the time frame that you have. And if I give you 4 days to do it, that 5th day you have already failed. But that's a conversation that you can have in the beginning, right? You're not trying to scare them. You're just being honest. But if you're a person that communicates with your team, they already know how you are. So they want to make sure that you're not, you want to make sure that you're not leaving things out. SMART goal checklist. Exactly. The SMART goal is just, you can use that in so many different ways. And that's why I say I learned it in corporate, but I now hear a lot of entrepreneurs when they're talking, I was at Diana Perez, event recently, and I noticed that she used the SMART acronym. I was at Tina Greer's, and I think that was last year and earlier this year, and she was using the SMART acronym. And these are entrepreneurs. So I'm saying, it has come out. That's what we do. We take those things that we have learned in corporate, we bring it into our own businesses, because if it works there, it's going to work in your business. So that's really good to use that. But make sure that you support and communicate with your people throughout the delegation process. If it's a day that you're giving them to do it, half of that day, make sure you're communicating with them, making sure they know that you're there supporting them. Do you have any questions for me? Are you on track? Those type things. But in the beginning, when you're going through and you're telling them about the delegation, you're waiting for them to agree, make sure you're telling them to ask you questions if they don't know something. Open that door for them so that they'll feel comfortable. You have a lot of managers, especially in corporate, who say they have that open door policy, right? That's just something big to say. But as soon as they see you come into that door, first of all, the door probably is normally closed all the time. But as soon as you come to that door and begin to ask them something, you get that look. So I'm asking, and this is something I definitely have to work on, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. My facial expressions say too much that my mouth may not say. So you have to work on those facial expressions when your people come to ask you questions, especially when you're really busy. You got to start with a smile. Even though you may not want to smile, open up and smile when you see them come to the door, because that's opening up, giving them making them feel more comfortable coming to you. So that's extremely important. But give feedback. Remember, talk about the strength, but always talk about their weaknesses, because that's the only way we can grow as humans. Let them know that small tasks are part of the job, and share it when you failed or made mistakes. That's important to share our success with our people, so they'll know, what we've got through, what we've gone through in order to get to wherever we are. But we have to let them know that we failed in some things and we've made some mistakes. So once they make mistakes and once they fail, they understand and they know it's not an end result, that you can still build on that. But one important thing to add to that is, I always tell them, from that failure and from that mistake, they must learn something for it, because that's the only way they can grow. I always tell them how proud of you are for accepting the delegation of projects. I don't care how bad a job they do. If they have accepted that, tell them that you're proud of them. That's going to go a long way when you start talking about those weaknesses that they have. I appreciate you, even though you didn't think that you could do this, even though you made some mistakes, even though you failed at some things. I'm proud of you for taking the first step of accepting the delegation. Don't give them the delegation. Allow them to accept it. Because once they accept it, then you can tell them, and they value and trust you a whole lot more once you're giving them those weaknesses that they have. They will not do as you would do. Remember that they are not you, especially these young people who are coming up now. My son, and I talk about my youngest son all the time, because my oldest son has gotten to be a lot like me, but my youngest son he has my same attitude. So, I kind of understand it, but I still have to steer him in the right direction. But he's always saying that, hey, Shell, thank you so much for joining me. He's always saying that, Mama, I really, I like the way you raised me, but I don't have to do everything the way you tell me to do it anymore. That's a better way for me to do it now. He's all about showing me that there's a better way to do anything. And even though it irritates me a lot of the time, because I took 22 years to teach you these things, and now you think you have a better way to me. You know more than I know at 47. Those type things. But then when he do things and it is a better way, it makes me smile. It makes me proud that not only did I teach you some things in life, you've used those things and you build upon them, and you're using your own mind. Because even though you have me and your daddy both, he has my attitude, he has his daddy's personality, you are still becoming your own young man. I may not smile and let him see it sometime. We may say it in conversation later on because I may be still irritated. But that's what you want to see. You want to see your children not become you. Because they work very hard not becoming their parents, right? I did it as well, and I'm becoming my mother every single day. More like my mother every single day. But at the same time, I became my own person. So it's important for you to do that for your children, but it's also important for you to do that for your employees as well, for your mentees as well, the people that you're trying to harness and you're trying to grow. It's important for you to allow them to be themselves and not try to be you. That's important. Don't be that manager. Don't be that leader that say, do as I do, wait to be told, follow these instructions exactly, because that is instruction and there's no delegation freedom for that. Again, my name is Kayl May. I am the customer service and leadership coach. I am a motivational speaker. I am a mentor. I'm a radio talk show host, and I am an author. Do you have any questions for me before we get ready to wrap up? And then I know it takes a few minutes to put questions in, but I wanted to thank everyone for joining me. I appreciate it. Hopefully I've said something that's going to help you get some delegation going on, but make sure you delegate with purpose. Remember, this is the holiday time, so this is the time that you need to be delegating responsibilities, because don't wait until you get into the hustle and bustle of the holidays. You know, and I talked about that in my other videos, is that September is when they're going to start shopping for Christmas and things. Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate that. You know, it's September is the time that they're going to start shopping. So you want to start delegating right now, so they'll already know how to do those responsibilities. Yes, I am very common. I'm a country girl. You know, go to my, if you see my link, Kim, on my profile, you can go to my website and send me an email. I would love to Skype with you. Yes, I would love to collaborate with you no matter where you are. And I appreciate that. But, we just have to make sure that we're understanding people and that you're getting your people in place right now for the holidays. Because if you wait until then, it's more mistakes are going to be made. It's more training that you're going to be trying to do when it's not time to do training. It's time to start making your money, right? Making sure you have everything in place. So start now doing your delegation so they won't think that you're just using them. Because remember, you're going to use some of these techniques to let them know that you're delegating with the purpose. And that purpose is you want them to get some leadership skills. You want them to get some more management skills. Nothing about you. And you want to see them successful. Never put yourself in that because you need help, because you're overstressed. How often do you scope? I used to scope every day. Now it's a few times a week, and I do Facebook Live. Probably a little bit more than I do Periscope now, Kim. And you can find me on Facebook at Kayl May. Kaylmay. Thank you. So you just want to make sure that your delegation is, that you're delegating your responsibilities, but you're delegating with the purpose. And this is the time to do it. And remember, it's never about you. It's always about the person that you're giving that task to. You always want to, I see the question, Kim. You always want to make sure that everything is about them. It's never about you. And you want to explain everything to a T, and you want to explain that to them. Scope, I really haven't gotten a time frame down yet because I've gotten so busy the last few months. But normally it's a little bit later in the evening time. Today was an extreme. I had an hour or so where I didn't have a call that I had to be on. So it was a little bit earlier for me today, but normally it's in the evening, sometimes around 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. Thank you so much, Kim. I look forward to it. So thank you, everyone. I'm not going to hold you now, but thank you, everyone, for joining me. I do appreciate it. This is Monday. Let's all of us entrepreneurs, all of us business owners, and all employees go out and make this a great work week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Look forward to hearing from you, Kim.